In this video, we'll be talking about software engineering interview process. If you are preparing for an interview, then knowing about the content, process, and the structure of the interview can help you organize your preparation. It can direct the focus on the parts that can help you clear the interview. And best way to learn about interview process is to hear from someone who has a lot of experience being part of the process. My name is Akash, and for those of you who are new to the channel, I'm a software engineer working at Microsoft. I've been part of many interview process, both as candidate and interviewee, and in this video I'll be sharing my knowledge of general software engineering interview process in the tech industry. So let's get started. Software engineering interview process usually begins with a recruiter screening. This round is usually 15 to 30 minutes long, consisting of a conversation with a recruiter. Aim of this round is to market the company and job to the candidate, and at the same time recruiter will be filtering candidates based on their experience, communication skill, and profile. During this round, recruiter may ask you a few technical questions depending on the company. And my advice for answering those questions is not to get too technical. Remember, recruiters are not technical experts. They have been provided with pre-crafted answers to the questions that they're asking you. Therefore, ensure that your answers are crisp and precise. Do not add any background information or information that will only be relevant to edge cases unless specifically asked to do so. 3 commonly asked questions in almost all recruiter screening are: what is your salary expectation? When can you join the company, or how long is your notice period? And why are you looking to switch the company? And in this round, recruiter may also ask you a few behavioral questions. And some recruiters will explain you the interview structure on the phone call, or they might send you an email consisting of that. After the completion of the round, recruiter will share your profile with the team that is hiring. And if you are identified as a potential candidate, then recruiters will follow up with 2 things. 1, the preparation material that will help you perform well on the interview. And 2, coding assessment or an invitation to the phone interview. Now let's talk about the coding assessment. In the email, you'll be provided with link to Codility, HackerRank, or any other coding platform. Assessment will be time box consisting of multiple choice and coding questions. Aim of this round is to filter the candidate before the hiring team gets involved. Expectation is that you score X percentage, where X is at least 80% in order to clear this round. After that, there'll be phone interview. Phone interview consists of questions related to data structures and algorithm, behavioral, and technical concepts. And some companies tend to skip the phone interview after the coding assessment and immediately call you for an on-site round. And there are few companies that will ask you to complete both the coding assessment and phone interview before calling you for on-site interviews. Most big tech companies will fall under this category. Depending on your performance, some companies will ask you to do a second phone interview before calling you for on-site round. And this rarely happens if your performance is somewhere in the middle, like if you clearly did not flunk the interview but neither did you pass. And in this situation, some companies will give you second chance to identify if you are a potential candidate. Phone interview is usually with an engineer from hiring team. It is about 45 minutes to an hour long, and most time will be spent on a coding question. It will contain about 1 to 2 behavioral, concept-based, or resume-based question. If you clear the phone interview, then you'll be asked to do on-site interviews. They are also known as interview loop. Before COVID, many companies literally used to fly the candidate to the physical company office where the team is located. Hence the term on-site interview was used. But nowadays, companies tend to do them on Teams or any other video conferencing software. Interview loop usually consists of 2 to 4 rounds depending on the company. Number of interview rounds and composition usually depend on 2 main factors: company that you're interviewing at and the experience that you have. If you look at the interview loop composition, you are looking at 1 to 3 coding round, 0 to 1 system design round, 0 to 1 behavioral round, or 0 to 1 lunch interview round. Now let's talk about each type of interviews in the detail. For coding round, you'll be asked to implement code for a particular problem statement. Questions in this round will test your data structures and algorithm skills. It will also test your implementation and language skills. Most companies, depending on the level, will tend to ask you easy to medium level lead code questions. But big tech and select few hot startups will tend to ask you medium to hard level lead code questions for software engineering positions. Expectation in this round is that candidate will be talking about their thought process while implementing the solution. Candidates are expected to ask clarifying questions and talk about edge cases for the problem. After the implementation, candidates will be asked about time and space complexity of the solution. They'll also be asked about any potential optimization on the solution that they've implemented. And eventually, the candidate will be asked to describe or implement the testing plan for the solution. Towards the end of the round, interviewer might ask you 1 or 2 behavioral or technical questions. And the interviewer will wrap up the round by giving you an opportunity to ask questions. Next, let's talk about the system design or the case study round. System design interview round is common for mid to senior software engineering positions, while object-oriented design round is common for the junior software engineering position. Object-oriented interview round will basically consist of implementing a class structure for a problem statement. For specialized positions such as management, PM, data scientist, or data engineer, you'll be asked to do a case study. But in this interview, candidate will be provided with a vague problem statement and will be expected to propose a software engineering solution. Candidates are expected to drive the conversation in this round. Best way to tackle the system design interview is by doing 3 things. 1. Ask a lot of clarifying questions. 2. State your assumptions. And 3. Talk about your design decisions and provide alternatives. For each alternative, do trade-off discussions and provide reasoning for selecting one alternative or another. Remember, this interview is highly collaborative, so keep listening to your interviewer for any hints to drive the conversation. It is likely that you'll start talking about one topic, but your interviewer was expecting you to talk about a different topic. And if that is the case, your interviewer will drop you hints in form of open-ended questions. For example, what do you think about this issue? Unlike coding round, it will be very difficult to assess your performance on system design round as there are many correct solutions. You will be evaluated on your ability to clarify the requirement and propose a solution. Obviously, the second part includes your depth of knowledge, decision-making ability, and simplicity of the solution. Next, we'll talk about behavioral and resume overview round. Some companies tend to merge this with coding and system design round. For example, big tech company like Microsoft will ask you 1 to 2 behavioral questions in every interview round, and other companies will tend to have a dedicated round for this with hiring manager and HR. Often resume overview is part of this interview. In this, hiring manager will ask you to elaborate on an experience on your resume. They'll ask you for an alternative solution than the one that you implemented and will expect a trade-off analysis. Hiring manager will go in depth on many of your experience and will figure out if you have faked your experience. So I'll highly recommend not to do that. But the aim of this round is to determine culture fit. Behavioral question will come in form of tell me about a time when you had to face certain situation. And good framework to answer this question is STAR method. S in STAR stands for situation, so talk about the situation that happened. For example, when I was working at this company on so and so project. T is task, so talk about task. For example, I was in charge of implementing a task and something happened, like I had a disagreement with a coworker or something, depending on a question. A stands for action, so talk about what you did to resolve the situation. For example, I set up a meeting with a coworker to discuss the trade-off and we agreed upon a particular solution. And finally, R stands for result, so talk about what was the result. For example, we ended up saving 20% cost or ended up implementing the project faster. This framework will show your ability to clearly communicate and will give you an edge over other candidates. Usually, after the interview loop, the companies will decide if the candidate should be extended an offer. Now, before we talk about what happens after the interview loop on company's end, let's talk about the type of interviews that we did not cover yet. Lunch interview. This used to be a thing before COVID when companies used to fly candidate to their headquarters for an interview. This round was common in big tech where candidate will have lunch with hiring manager or senior software engineer. Expectation of this round was to market the team and see if you are culturally fit. Candidate can also ask questions to learn more about the team and the process. But nowadays this round has become less and less common. Take home assignments. In this, the company will expect you to implement an assignment. This can be time boxed to give you about 2 to 3 hours to solve the problem, or it can be open-ended, giving you 1 to 2 weeks to solve the assignment. However, my advice will be to give priority to the positions that have time-boxed assignment or coding round over the ones that give you 1 to 2 week long assignments. This is based on my experience because companies will rarely spend as much time to give you a valuable feedback if you do not get selected. Asking someone to spend 2 weeks of their time implementing a solution to an extent shows that they do not value your time. And therefore, if you have options that value your time, go for those before this. And it would be much better to conduct a 2 to 4 hour long pair programming round over the 2 week long assignment because candidate will essentially spend same amount of time doing the assignment. So that was my rant about 2 week long take home assignments. Usually take home assignment round is followed by a 1 hour long round where you will be expected to explain your solution. Second round is only conducted for the qualified candidates. And after the second round, there's usually 1 to 2 behavioral and coding round to wrap up the process. Next, let's talk about pair programming round. Many companies tend to invite candidate to do pair programming with an engineer from the team. This round can be anywhere between a couple of hours to 1 day long. Candidates are evaluated based on their technical ability and collaboration skills in this round. After this, there's usually 1 to 2 coding and behavioral round to wrap up the process. Now let's talk about what happens on the other side. Process of hiring software engineers varies significantly significantly across different companies. But if I had to provide you with quick and generic glance at companies' process, then here it is. So remember, interview process is a funnel where hundreds or even thousands of candidates will apply for a position. It is common to have 500 plus applicants for a position in today's market. From there, only about 30 to 40 will get a recruiter call, and very few, about 25, will get a coding assessment. And from that, about 10 will get phone interview. And after that, only about 3 to 4 candidates will be selected for the on-site round. Once all on-site rounds are complete, interview panel consisting of hiring manager and engineers will get together in a meeting to decide which candidate should be extended an offer. So you see, the process is like a funnel and it gets narrow very quickly. Remember, companies are looking for an engineer who can provide them maximum value. So even if you performed extremely well on your interview, it is possible that you may not get the offer because you are judged against other potential candidates. And there's a possibility that someone performed even better than you. Or they performed worse, but they were better culture fit compared to you. So the idea is if you interview with 3 different companies, chances are you'll get selected at one of them given that you are well prepared. Let's talk about the resources that can help you learn more. To get more insight about the interview process at big tech companies, you can read a book called Cracking the Coding Interview. It has good overview of the entire interview process at all big tech companies and select few startups. To recap, most software engineering companies tend to have a simple 3 to 5 round interview process, starting with recruiter screening, then coding assessment or phone interview, and then 2 to 3 rounds with the team members. Overall timeline for the process can take anywhere between 2 to 3 weeks to 2 to 3 months long depending on the company. So that's it for this video. And as always, if you have any question, please comment below and I'll try my best to answer them. And please like, share and subscribe. It will really help motivate me to continue making such videos. And one last thing, I also started offering 30-minute consultation session to anyone who is looking for a resume review or a job search guideline. For limited time, I have kept sessions free. So hurry and book your consultation before the offer expires. I put the link in the description below. Thanks.